Trump promised NRA members he'd have their back. But when Second Amendment rights came under attack, Trump abandoned us and stood with liberal Democrats.
You guys, half of you are so afraid of the NRA. We have to fight them every once in a while. That's okay.
Some of you people are petrified of the NRA. You can't be petrified. They have great power over you people. They have less power over me.
You just watched a portion of an anti-Trump ad that was released by a pro-Ron DeSantis super PAC called Never Back Down. And it's accusing Donald Trump of apparently being a gun grabber, even though there was nothing done to strengthen gun laws under his watch. In fact, we're starting to see DeSantis and his allies basically take some pretty massive jabs at Trump. I think the pro-NRA, pro-gun ad is the strongest one I've seen yet. So why don't we watch a little more of it and I'll explain what the reality is.
That is why I have called for red flag laws.
Or like take the firearms first and then go to court. I like taking the guns early. Take the guns first, go through due process.
He and I introduced another assault weapons bill.
Diane, you have some very good ideas. Diane, if you could add what you have also, and I think you can, into the bill.
Yeah, Joe, are you ready?
Can you do that? Joe, can you do that? Pat, can you add?
If you help.
Well, no, I'll help, but can you add what Amy and what Diane have? Can we add them in? We're talking about rules and regulations for purchasing. We're talking about changing an age from 18 to 21. I mean, I say that it should all be at 21. We do strong background checks. We're getting rid of the bump stocks.
Trump cut and run like a coward. Trump, the gun grabber, doesn't deserve a second chance.
Okay, so I'm definitely amused by that ad. I think that it's probably the harshest one or the harshest attack I've seen from DeSantis's camp toward Trump. But I'm wondering if it's really gonna land, because just this past weekend, Donald Trump was one of the keynote speakers at the NRA conference where he just parroted all sorts of typical right-wing pro-gun talking points in response to the insane amount of gun violence we've been experiencing in the country recently. So whether it's a harsh ad or not doesn't really matter. What really matters is whether it is going to land with the Republican base of voters. And I'm curious what you think about that, Cenk.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of split on it, Anna, because in the beginning they kind of screwed it up because they're having Trump say like, "Oh, you guys all work for the NRA, but I don't. I'll challenge them."
Right.
Even if you're a right winger, that sounds strong. I mean, it's total nonsense. We're going to show to you in a second that Trump was completely lying about that. I know that comes as a giant surprise, right? But he did not challenge the NRA, and the way that he backed down is hilarious. So we'll get to that in a minute. But the part where they call him a coward at the end, that was good. And I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I would remember saying, why don't the Democrats use the video of Donald Trump getting spooked when he thought there was a guy who was gonna rush the podium and he looked so scared. And they boom, DeSantis first ad out of the gate has that at the end where he goes, look, when he thinks somebody's going, look that Trump has. Yeah, that's called politics. But Democrats are going, I don't know if we can use that. Just hit him already. Look, I'll give DeSantis the credit for this. They're coming out swinging harder than I would have expected. I mean, calling him a gun grabber, that's not bad, right? He grabs him by the gun. You know, if you're a celebrity, they let you get away with it.
Oh my God, that's pretty hilarious. So let's get to the reality though, because while Trump did in fact make those pro-gun reform statements, he was immediately reminded of who signed some of his checks, and that's the NRA and the gun lobby. So back in 2019, after the terrible mass shooting that took place at a Walmart in El Paso, Texas, Trump started coming out with some pretty sensible proposals in regard to gun reform. So he changed his mind pretty quickly after Wayne LaPierre, who's the head of the NRA, gave him a little phone call. They had a 30-minute phone call. At the time, the New York Times reported on it, writing that Trump spent at least 30 minutes on the phone with Wayne LaPierre, the chief executive of the NRA, the latest conversation in an aggressive campaign by gun rights advocates to influence the White House in the weeks since the back-to-back mass shootings in Texas and Ohio. Now, this is where it gets good. because it's always about the money, and it's important for you guys to remember that. The call ended the way LaPierre had hoped it would, with Trump espousing NRA talking points in the Oval Office and warning of the radical steps he said Democrats wanted to take in violation of the Second Amendment. Now, mind you, he was on tape saying that he wanted to work with Dianne Feinstein and with other Democrats in passing things like an assault weapons ban, strengthening background checks, possibly some red flag laws. But the president's remarks also demonstrated how the NRA, which spent $30 million on Trump's campaign in 2016 and stuck with him when other Republicans wavered in their support, still wields great influence over the White House. And at the time, Wayne LaPierre also tweeted about that. And immediately Donald Trump was like, oh, that's right, that's my daddy. That's right, I have to listen to him. So It was actually pretty pathetic.
And I remember covering that story, and I remember saying, there's no way Trump's gonna do that. He's gonna get a call from Wayne LaPierre, and he's gonna buckle the next day. And that's exactly what happened. And the good news about it is that Trump has such verbal diarrhea that we knew that he would say the reason why he buckled, okay? And he did. So I found the quote from that time. So he says, oh, I'm gonna challenge the NRA, man. I'm not owned like you guys. And then LaPierre calls him and he's like, okay, I'll do anything you want, I'll do anything you want. He's actually a bitch. So DeSantis should attack him on being like owned by these donors, but of course he won't because he's also owned by the donors. Anyway,
exactly.
And the Democrats won't either because they're also owned by the donors. It's so frustrating. Anyway, here's what Trump said after the call with the NRA. A lot of the people that put me where I am are strong believers in the Second Amendment, and I am also. Okay, so all of a sudden, he talks to him and goes, hey, remember how we gave you $30 million last time? You orange-headed buffoon. And Trump goes, I'm sorry. And then he comes back in and he's like, I remember they're strong backers of mine. Like, you didn't remember that last time, schmuck? He did this twice. He did it after Parkland early on in his term, and then he did it in that particular case that we've been telling you about. And every time the buffoon forgets what his policy position is, he accidentally says like, I guess we should protect kids. We don't want them murdered, right? Hey, good instinct, good instinct. Then he goes and talks to his donors and he's like, right, I forgot our official position is kids getting murdered, no big deal, as long as I get 30 million bucks. Hey, DeSantis, why don't you be honest about that? Oh, right, you take bribes from the NRA too. Exactly.
Now, the final thing I want to mention in regard to this ongoing feud between Trump and DeSantis is that while DeSantis has, or at least a pro-DeSantis PAC has rolled out the first pretty harsh, pretty good attack ad, I'm questioning whether DeSantis is willing to get mired in the muck, if he's willing to hit below the belt the way that Trump is. Because Trump is pretty vicious himself, far more vicious, at least he's proven himself to be far more vicious in the past. And he put out his own ad attacking DeSantis, and it targets DeSantis over something that I find hilarious. Let's watch.
Ron DeSantis loves sticking his fingers where they don't belong. And we're not just talking about pudding. DeSantis has his dirty fingers all over senior entitlements, like cutting Medicare, slashing Social Security, even raising our retirement age. Tell Ron DeSantis to keep his pudding fingers off our money. Oh, and somebody get this man a spoon.
No, come on. Cenk, that was perfect. It was so perfect. It had this like gross imagery that like causes this like visceral, like just this disgust. And it hits DeSantis on something substantive, which is those incredibly popular social spending programs. So if I had to vote on which ad I think is more vicious, I'd go with the pudding one.
100%. It's exactly what I said on the air when we covered it. That is a killer ad. It triggers the number one thing for a conservative mind. Number two is fear. Number one is disgust. It looks disgusting. It calls them pudding fingers, and then on top of that, bringing up Social Security and Medicare. And again, I'll draw your attention to the fact that Democrats lost to Ron DeSantis by 20 points. They couldn't make one ad like this, not one ad like this, when he was running for governor in Florida just a little while ago. The Democrats are the worst political party of my lifetime that I've ever seen anywhere in the world. But yes, Trump in his first ad does an ad against DeSantis that is 10,000 times more devastating than any Democratic ad against him. And so far in these ad wars, Trump is definitely winning on that ad alone, but I am surprised that DeSantis is hitting him a little bit harder than I would have expected.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.